Marvel Rivals makes my Peter tingle. It's been about a month and Marvel Rivals has seemingly taken the world by storm and 20 million men away from their girlfriends. And no, the Squirrel Girl body pillows, they don't count, guys. That's sick and perverted, okay? But before we even get started, I just want to set one thing straight. My opinion doesn't matter. Now, I want to say this because I'm assuming a lot of you are going to have a different opinion than me, and that's okay, but I don't think the game's amazing. Okay, now before the angry mob gets here, I'm not saying it's bad, that's not what I'm saying, and in order to get you guys to believe me that I'm not saying it's bad, please allow me to go into a deep dive of the game, starting with... I honestly love the characters they implemented. This is a super nice blend of heroes, some of which we've seen on the big screen for years, and for others it's their first time outside of the comics. Spider-Man, Black Panther, Rocket Raccoon, Jeff, and so many more fan favorites. Currently there are 35 heroes in the game, but with Season 1 just being released, it looks like there are so many more characters to come. And oh my god, this art style is amazing. I absolutely love it. They went with the perfect mix of cartoony and realism, creating a new modern design for each character, while still keeping true to the original designs. And possibly the best part of all, every character is free. Free? No longer are you trapped playing the same 4 characters until you either grind enough or give in and pay to unlock the rest of the roster. And from what I can tell, this includes content that will be released later down the line. Of course, there's a battle pass, as nearly every online PvP game has at least one, but the difference is you can actually unlock new costumes without having to pay for the premium pass, and can even slowly claim the in-game currency in order to get other skins for whichever characters you like. Not to mention, with most of these characters having multiple versions throughout media, this allows for those different variants to appear, just not as completely different characters. And looking at the pool from what they could pull from, I think they'll be fine. But as much as I adore the character design, appreciate how they went about handling the battle pass and just letting people play whoever they want straight from the start, we need to take a look at the gameplay. As you probably already know, Marvel Rivals is a third-person shooter that pairs you up in 2 teams of 6 to face each other in one of 5 game modes. There's Domination, where teams fight over a stationary point, Convoy, where one team needs to escort a moving point, Convergence, which the official description for the game mode says it's played like Convoy, but in order to start you need to claim the point first, aka a mix of Domination and Convoy, Conquest, which is a team deathmatch to either 50 team kills or until the timer runs out, and finally Doom Match, which was just released with Season 1, acting as a free-for-all deathmatch. And these modes aren't bad by any means. I mean, sure, other similar games might have more, but Marvel Rivals is just starting out and we're not exactly sure what's in store for the future. Now, as for how each character plays, everyone, as you've probably guessed, has different movesets, but there are some similarities. Everyone has a normal ranged attack, although some characters have limits on how far they reach. Groot, for example, has a limit because he makes his arms grow out, and you can't really just have that go on forever, but characters like Iron Man don't really have that same problem. Everybody also has a melee attack if you click V, but I feel like the game kind of hides that. And the last thing everyone has in common is their ultimate, in the sense that most likely, if used correctly, you're gonna get at least 1 kill, or if it's your opponent using it, you're just dead. I'm sorry, I don't know what else to tell you. There are roles for each hero assigned by falling into either Vanguard, which acts as tanks like Doctor Strange, Venom, or Bruce. I'm referring to Hulk, by the way. I just think it's funny seeing everyone in this group and then just him. Next up is Duelist, who are mainly just attackers like Wolverine, Black Widow, or Iron Fist, and this bunch makes up the majority of the roster, having more than Vanguard and Strategist combined. As for Strategist, it's just a nice way of saying support. You see characters like Mantis, Loki, or of course there's Jeff. Yes, we love you, Jeff, and no, you could never do anything wrong. Additionally, Marvel Rivals did implement something new. Team-ups grant either a new ability, a power-up for certain characters, or just let Rocket and Jeff be on Groot's shoulders. They do also receive damage reduction. I know, I swear I actually did my research. And as for an in-depth look at each character, I'm not doing that. But here's who I did play. Okay guys, what was I gonna do? Not be a basic white guy and play Spider-Man? If you want mobility, this is your pick. Worried about getting close enough to enemies? Well, after hitting them with a web, just click E and you've instantly locked onto them. From there, just press F for an uppercut and the enemy is officially disoriented. If you're playing with Venom, you get an extra symbiote ability, and your ultimate is an AoE that will most likely guarantee you at least 1 kill. As passives, you not only have an additional Spidey sense, but can also climb walls. If you do play Spider-Man, you are most likely super cool. Pew pew. Why did I do that? And all the bitches love you. If you thought all characters were created equal, you might be right, but you also might be wrong. Compared to the 11 abilities and passives Spider-Man has, Squirrel Girl has 6. Your normal shots explode and may be considered your best bet for getting kills. Additionally, you can throw a giant acorn by right-clicking, and your E not only reloads your normal attack, but also refreshes your abilities from what I can tell. As for mobility, you can bounce with your tail by pressing the left shift, leaving you with your ultimate, which is a squirrel tsunami that bounces off walls and deals damage to enemies. You may notice I only mentioned 5 abilities, and that's because pairing up with Spider-Man gives you your team up ability, a webbed acorn attack that temporarily stuns enemies. I personally never got the chance to use it, so that kinda sucked. But if you play Squirrel Girl, you most likely find the character model hot. While on the topic of animal-based superheroes, I'm sure everybody wants to hear about Jeff, seeing as he is a fan favorite. As for your healing abilities, Jeff can use Water Gun to heal his allies, along with using Bubble to heal and grant movement speed to whoever on his team it hits. Jeff can also use Dive, which heals him over time, along with granting him movement speed and the ability to wall crawl. His passive Shell Armor lowers damage taken from crits, and if on Groot's shoulder, also gains damage reduction. Jeff's only damaging moves are his normal attack, Aqua Jet, which turns into Icicle Spear when teamed up with Luna Snow, and his ultimate, Whirlpool, which will always instantly end a battle. If you're confused on how I describe Jeff, it's because I used Pokemon terms instead of his actual ability names, and if you play Jeff, you're a piece of shit. When looking at Jeff's buddy Groot, we can see that he can build walls, and also more walls. Apparently, attacking enemies near these walls will either deal or grant an additional effect. Granted, I wasn't aware of this while playing, but I still somehow managed to do well. Groot can also throw Spore Bombs, which are bombs of spores, and his ultimate entraps enemies with roots and constantly deals damage to them. Just like every character, Groot can melee, but after every third strike, he'll knock enemies up, and also has a Vine Strike, which, as I mentioned earlier, is a limited ranged attack. As I mentioned before, Jeff and Rocket can ride on Groot's back, and if you play Groot, you most likely have gotten your teammates killed by walling them off. Keep in mind, these are who I play. Hela is possibly my favorite character to use simply based off of the destruction you can do with her. Left-clicking throws daggers that does a good chunk of damage, and right-clicking throws 5 that deal less, but after a delay will detonate, making up for that loss. Her E throws a sphere that will pull in and stun nearby enemies, and pressing left shift transforms her into a crow to get out of sticky situations. She has 2 passives that, once again, I didn't know about. After playing the game and doing my research for this video, I highly recommend taking time to look at the abilities panel, because a lot of things you aren't made explicitly aware of. Regardless, pressing space after jumping off of something lets her descend slowly, and killing an enemy will have a crow appear and then explode, dealing damage in a radius. As for her ultimate, holy shit does it feel unfair. You teleport up into the sky with your new left-click attack that explodes when it hits something. Yeah, no one is living. It's also very unlikely that players look up to kill you in this form, seeing as so much else is going on in the 6v6 format, and with very few characters actually being able to take to the sky like Iron Man or Star-Lord, you're basically just free to rain hell. If you play Hela, you most likely have a mommy-dommy kink. I'm just kidding. No, I'm not. The last character I wanted to talk about was Hawkeye, as he's very reliant on his normal attacks, but in order to make him interesting, they gave him 2 versions of it. He has a piercing arrow that deals more damage, but also a blast arrow you can switch to that shoots 3 at a time and explodes on impact. Not just that, but his passive allows him to charge up attacks, making the same move deal different levels of damage, depending on how long you've had it prepped. His melee attack supposedly deflects incoming projectiles, but good luck with that one. Left shift swings a katana that knocks players back, and his E shoots an arrow that not only deals 2 instances of damage, but also slows them down and can knock down flying heroes. Lastly, his ultimate allows you to see after images of enemies, and damaging them instantly transfers damage back to the player, making the move almost impossible to dodge. And just to add insult to injury, pairing up with Black Widow allows her to also be able to hit the after images seen from your ultimate. Those were just some of the characters that stood out to me, but it's important to note that nobody plays particularly bad. It's really just all about finding a character that suits your playstyle. For instance, I'm used to dying a lot, so playing as Groot, someone who's more tanky rather than someone who doesn't have all that much health, really benefited me, and I think that about wraps things up. The last thing is, look, I understand why people are flocked in this game. Hell, I've seen the trailer and it looks fucking cool, okay? The fact that they made a cinematic trailer look like the actual game is impressive. I can't be upset. But could you just imagine what a cinematic universe based around this game would look like? Okay, but seriously. I don't view Marvel Rivals as a bad game, and the fact it's an Overwatch or Paladins clone doesn't bother me. What I just don't understand, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is they just didn't add anything. There are no different game modes, in fact, there are less, and they just didn't change the formula at all. It reminds me so much of when all the Battle Royale games were dropping in the mid-2010s. Only the top few stood out, and the question I keep asking myself is, would everyone still be freaking out about Marvel Rivals if it wasn't Marvel? The reason why I wanted to try the game was to play as some of my favorite heroes. But if there are other games that play the exact same except for the fact that they have more content, why should Marvel Rivals be seen as the standout? I'm not trying to tell you not to enjoy the game, I'm just saying that I don't personally understand all the hype, and that's okay. Not every game is going to be made for me, and the same rules apply for you, and that doesn't make a game good or bad, it just means we have different opinions, and that's okay. With that all being said, I really do want to know what you guys think, so please don't be afraid to comment what you do or don't like about Marvel Rivals, and maybe even what you'd like to see come in the future. Anyway, thank you guys for watching, it's been a pleasure being your trip sitter, and as always, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Oh, thank God.